In this lesson, you'll use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. You also determine if a triangle is a right triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem. Over 2,000 years ago, there was an amazing discovery about triangles. It was discovered that if you were to take the two legs of a right triangle and square them, add them together, it would always equal the square of the longest side called the hypotenuse. For example, if we had a right triangle with legs of 3 and 4 and a hypotenuse of 5, if you square the 3 and you square the 4, when you square those and add them together, it's always going to equal the longest side, or the hypotenuse squared. So 3 squared is 9, plus 4 squared, which is 16. That's going to equal the longest side squared, which is 25. This will work for any right triangle. In our first example, you're going to write an equation using Pythagorean's theorem to solve for the missing side length. We're going to round our answers to the nearest tenth. So if this is my right triangle, these two sides right here are the legs. They form the right angle. Your legs are always your A and your B. It doesn't matter which one you call A and which one you call B, but the two that form the right angle are A and B. The hypotenuse, or the side across from the right angle, is called C, or the hypotenuse. So we're going to start by writing down A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now you're going to plug in the numbers where they belong in the formula. So in place of A, I'm going to put 9. So 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. Now you're going to go ahead and calculate 9 squared plus 12 squared. 9 squared plus 12 squared. That equals 225. So I'm going to put 225 over here on the left, and then over here on the right it's still C squared. Now to solve this for C, you want to undo the squaring. The inverse operation of squaring is taking the square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So now we want to take the square root of 225. Square root of 225 is 15. So C equals 15. In this case, it's 15 inches. We would not use the negative square root of 225 because it wouldn't make sense to have a side length of a triangle being negative 15 inches. All right, this next one's a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead again and write down the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember, A and B are the two legs and they form the right angle of the right triangle. So this is our A and B, so I'm going to label this one A. And then our hypotenuse is the one across from the right angle. I'm going to label that C. Now I'm going to plug everything in. A squared, so 8 squared, plus B squared equals, now in place of C, I'm going to put a 24 squared. Now if you wanted to, you could go ahead and calculate what 8 squared is and 24 squared, but I found that kids usually like the quickest way with the least amount of work to write down. So I'm going to just go ahead and solve this for B by getting rid of this 8 squared by subtracting 8 squared from both sides. On the left side, you'd be left with B squared. And now on the right side, you want to take and type in your calculator 24 squared minus 8 squared. Do not go and just subtract 24 minus 8. That's a mistake sometimes students will make. You have to actually do 24 squared minus 8 squared. So 24 squared minus 8 squared, that's 512. Now to solve this for b, we want to take the square root because we want to undo the squaring. Square root of both sides. Square root of b squared is b, and the square root of 512 is about 22.6 when you round it to the nearest tenth. So 22 and 6/10 meters would be the length of side B. You may want to pause the video and try these next two on your own. I'm going to go ahead and write down the formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now I'm going to go and label my legs and hypotenuse of the triangle. Remember, the ones that form the right angle are your A and B. And the one across from the right angle is C, or your hypotenuse. So I'm going to write down 24 squared plus 18 squared equals C squared. Now you can go ahead and use your calculator and calculate 24 squared plus 18 squared. That's 900 on the left, and we still have c squared on the right. Now to undo the squaring, you will take the square root of both sides. The square root of 900 is what number times itself gives you 900, which this one I don't even need a calculator for. That one is 30, because 30 times 30 is 900. So C is going to equal 30 yards. And now for the next one, I'm going to write down a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now I'm going to go ahead and label my legs and hypotenuse. Right here, these are the legs. So this is going to be A, this one is going to be B, and this side then across from the right angle, the longest side is the hypotenuse, that's C. So now let's go plug those into our Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus b squared equals 8 squared, since c is equal to 8. Now if I want to solve this for b, I need to get rid of this 3 squared by subtracting 3 squared from both sides. And you're left with b squared equals, now again, you're not going to do 8 minus 3 and say 5 squared. It doesn't work that way. You're going to do 8 squared minus 3 squared, or 64 minus 9. So 8 squared minus 3 squared. That's going to equal 55. And then you undo this b squared by taking the square root. Square root of b squared is b. Square root of 55, that's going to be about 7 4/10 miles. Now the last thing we're going to do is kind of the reverse. We're going to check to see if a triangle is a right triangle by plugging its legs and the three sides into Pythagorean's theorem to see if it works. It says the measures of three sides of a triangle are 5, 12, and 13 inches. Determine whether the triangle is a right triangle. Well, we're going to test that out by plugging it into a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're going to put the two shorter sides in for a and b, because remember, c is always the longest side. So 5 squared plus 12 squared, we're going to see if that equals, I'm going to put a question mark here because we're going to check to see if that equals 13 squared. Well, 5 squared plus 12 squared, that equals 169. And 13 squared also equals 169. Since those two things are equal, this is a right triangle. So yes, it is a right triangle. You may want to pause the video and try the last example on your own. a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Remember, the two shorter sides are going to be your a and b. So 4 squared plus 5 squared. We want to see if that equals 7 squared. Well, 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49. Now let's see what 4 squared plus 5 squared is. 4 squared plus 5 squared, that is 41. And 41 does not equal 49, so it is not a right triangle.